morning. The name of the presentation, as you can see, is Traffic Safety is All About Saving Lives. And we have a very special guest with us, and I'm going to get to him in a minute, who that is. I'm sure most of you know him. I wanted to introduce myself just quickly. This is Vinny Albino. I've been with Laser Technology now for 10 years as the product manager for traffic safety. I'm not originally a Denver guy, came from New York, but did go to the University of Denver. So Denver's been my home for about 50 years now. Today, we have a treat for sure. This is a great presentation. And the person giving this, Sheriff John Whetsel, he's retired now, but he has, you can see everything he's done on here, but there's a few other ones I just have to mention because we all know how big they are. He was the J. Standard Baker Excellence in Traffic Safety National Award winner. That is a huge accomplishment in law enforcement. The other thing I thought was interesting, he has been inducted into the Oklahoma Sheriff's Hall of Fame, the Oklahoma Law Enforcement Hall of Fame. And again, we were joking during the dry run that he has more awards than the Austrian ski team. He's just been around for so long. And he has a wonderful presentation for us today. So he'll be speaking. We're fortunate enough to have him speaking for us today. And I'll be running the slides. So I'm going to turn it over to John, to Sheriff Whetsel.
Good morning. I'm glad to be with you here today. You know, we're talking about traffic safety in our communities and throughout our country. But the sad part about it is that dying in a car crash has just become an acceptable way to die in our country. And today and tomorrow and every day, 110 people are going to die. According to the National Safety Council, it's over 40,000 a year. According to NHTSA, it's over 36,000 a year. But either one of those figures is too many. Next. So traffic enforcement and traffic safety are both about saving lives. This is a photo that I happened to take of a crash that occurred a couple of years ago in my own community. A banker just on his way home from work. And that's something that we in law enforcement have come to live with, and our communities have come to live with, but we can't come to accept it. Next. So in 2018, these are the deaths that NHTSA reported. They're a little bit different than the criteria that the National Safety Council uses, but these are the official ones from NHTSA. Over 36,000 people died. And you can see that 26% of those, the largest percentage of people that were killed in traffic crashes in this country, were due to speed. I mean, speed, it's an old thing, but it's true, speed kills. And you can see the other areas that people die in traffic crashes. Next. So this is the bottom line. Traffic safety within an agency requires leadership from the top. I don't care if it's a chief or a sheriff. If they don't have a commitment to traffic safety, then your agency will not be committed to saving lives. And that should be your number one job in your agency, is to save lives. Next. So over 70% of serious crimes in this country involve a motor vehicle. Obviously, our criminals aren't going to walk to and from work, but they do drive. So traffic safety and traffic enforcement is a vital part of also fighting crime in our communities. Next. So for the last few months, our country has been fighting the pandemic, COVID-19, and U.S. deaths are now over 120,000. Next. So during that period of time, agencies are really adjusting. Basic academies have been canceled or suspended. Some communities, because of loss of revenue, are requiring city employees to take furlough days. Up to 25% of officers in some agencies have been out and are still out with COVID-19. And the agencies are scrambling to provide PPP for officers, including those officers who work traffic safety in the community. Next. So in addition, law enforcement has taken on some really neat but extra duties, delivering meals and groceries and treat bags to seniors, shopping and delivering prescriptions for seniors, making welfare checks, providing hygiene items to citizens, handing out masks, and enforcing social distancing. Next. And look what has happened in the decline in vehicle miles that had been traveled in the top 10 areas. This is just for a period of a week back in April. But it continues and it lessens as areas open up. But in New York, the vehicle miles were down by 63%, and nationwide they were down by almost 50%. Next. So you would see roadways like this across our country. Next. But at the same time, we were having fewer vehicles and fewer crashes. We were having higher speeds over 100 miles an hour, more serious crashes, and fatalities. The average speed on U.S. highways in the 5 largest metros were up, including LA that was up 75% in their speeding. Detroit up 22% in their speeding. You can look around the country. Minnesota crashes and fatalities doubled while their miles driven were cut in half. And 50% of those crashes and fatalities were related to speeding and careless driving. Traffic was down across the country. Fatalities were up. And across the country, the other thing that was a phenomenon was the speeding and speeding tickets, up 20% in Washington, D.C., and cameras in New York City wrote 60% more speeding tickets. Next. And one of the things that when we talk about the pandemic that started around December of last year, we have had an epidemic in this country for years. Just over the last 10 years, we've had almost 350,000 people that have died in traffic deaths. And you see all the efforts that are going into, and deservedly, going into fighting the pandemic. But you don't see the same kind of effort to save 350,000 lives over the last 10 years. And that should be concerning to all of us. Next. This was just from a state trooper, Trent Pettigrew, here in Oklahoma. The lady just passed him at 101 miles an hour, and he paced her for 103 for a mile. She had no clue that a trooper was any place around her. Next. So this is out in California, a picture during a rush hour. You can see the difference between a normal rush hour and this rush hour. Next. So what happened is, as the roadways opened up, semi-trucks, big trucks, the speeds increased in Atlanta by 290% from an average of around 15 miles an hour up to almost 55 miles an hour. So across the country, you were seeing huge spikes and increases in the average speed for big trucks, especially during the rush hour. Next. Also then, in Congress let state raise the interstate weight limits. They suspended the hours of service law. There were requests for heavier truck weights and allowed trucks to have double 33s, and they wanted to make that permanent. But what we did see was truck crashes were up in 2018 and again in 2019. And heavier trucks, we all know, take longer to stop and cause more severe crashes. So that's one of the things we've been working on over the last few weeks as Congress has been putting together the final transportation bill. is to make sure that these changes, these temporary changes, are not made permanent when this thing is over. Next. So maybe these need to be our new traffic safety message. I know they may be rather crude, but they also get the message across because we've got to get people to slow down. Next. The other thing that we're seeing an increase in is impaired driving. During this pandemic, liquor and wine sales have been soaring. Sales are up 55%. They now can be home delivered, and I know in Oklahoma and other states, they have passed laws now that make home delivery permanent. It's going to be available from now on. Several states, including Oklahoma, allow restaurants to deliver or sell mixed drinks to go, and marijuana sales have skyrocketed. Marijuana dispensaries have drive-up lanes. You know, I saw that for myself in a community next to where I live, and they had drive-up lanes that were literally blocked out into the street waiting for people to pick up their marijuana. Next. So across the country, impaired driving arrests and crashes are down, but people are still dying, and that's where we come in. We still have not to forget that every day that we're out there trying to save lives because people, even in the pandemic, are dying in traffic crashes. Next. So if you want to look at something that will give you renewed passion for doing your job, I would encourage you to go to Facebook and go on the MAD Victim Services page. There are stories like this every day. Another story gets posted or another message from a victim gets posted next. And these are just some of the stories. Matthew Williams, in March of 2020, a 16-year-old kid killed by a drunk driver. You know, and the mother posts about her son and the loss of her son next. A 20-year-old mother killed in March. Her two children were with her. She was struck by a hit-and-run driver while she was waiting for police to arrive to investigate that crash. A second hit-and-run driver who was drunk ran into her on the side of the road and killed her. Her 3-year-old nephew watched that happen. Next. Again, in March of this year, a 23-year-old girl killed by an off-duty police officer, a police captain who was driving impaired. He ran a stop sign at 100 to 105 to 130 miles an hour while showing off his new car and hit her broadside. Next. And in April, a 53-year-old father struck broadside by a drunk driver in Georgia. And these are posted by the families of these men and women, boys and girls who get killed by drunk drivers next. And these are all occurring while the pandemic goes on. Irma Graves, a 60-year-old woman killed by a 20-year-old who ran a stop sign driving impaired on marijuana. Next. And some of the messages that the victims leave, if you simply cannot understand why someone is grieving so much for so long, then consider yourself fortunate that you do not understand. If you look at this Facebook page and read the messages that are on this Facebook page, it will give you a renewed passion for why you do what it is you do every day. Next. And now I just want to share my personal story and a story about my family that really kind of has given me the passion for doing what I do for years now. Next. As a matter of fact, today is an anniversary date. This is the the anniversary of the death of my first wife and 2-year-old daughter. Back in June the 23rd of 1980, I had left to go to work that day. During that evening, my wife had gone over to her parents' house just 5 miles away, spend time with the kids, the 2 kids, our 2-year-old Becky and our 4-year-old Stacy, over at her mom and dad's house having dinner, swimming in the swimming pool because I had a meeting that evening. Little did I know that would be the last time that morning when I left that I would see my wife and my 2-year-old daughter. Later that evening, after I got out of the meeting, I was standing around at a fireworks stand talking about fireworks for the kids when I heard a pursuit on the radio. A short time later, there was a crash. I was one of the officers that was dispatched to the scene. About 15 minutes after I arrived at the scene, I realized that the crash involved my family's vehicle. A small child, an infant, that they had brought wrapped in a sheet laying beside me in the ambulance as I sat there with the law enforcement officer who was involved in the crash. He was in pursuit of a motorcyclist who was probably impaired, but he was in pursuit, ran a stop sign at 100 miles an hour and hit my family's car broadside. When I realized that it was my family, I, of course, went running toward the car. I was restrained by other officers, and who kind of in disbelief helped me back. I was there for my 4-year-old daughter when she was very critically injured. When we got to the hospital, they told me what I already knew, that my wife and 2-year-old daughter had been killed in the crash, but they didn't tell me that my 4-year-old daughter was not expected to survive. She did, by the grace of God and the skill of the doctors at Children's Hospital in Oklahoma City. She survived. And on Friday, we had services for my wife and my 2-year-old daughter, Becky. Next. Now, Stacy and I have had the opportunity to rebuild our lives. I'm married to a wonderful woman who understands that I have a mission and a message, travels with me as I give the story across the country and do training programs for law enforcement and traffic safety. My 4-year-old is now grown up, and she is the mother of our 2 grandchildren, Bailey and Kaylee. Kaylee is married. Bailey is still in college. We have a daughter named Jonna, who is a student at Oklahoma State University Veterinary College. And we have 3 at-home kids, Rocky, Rosie, and Maggie. Next. So this has turned into my passion to save lives. And it also has turned into my message. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Every one of us is going to face storms, and we have faced storms in our life. And it's how we handle that storm, how we respond to that storm, that makes a difference in how we live. So I've learned to dance in the rain. And I've also learned I'm doing everything I can to save lives in our communities. Next. So the loss of law enforcement officers hasn't stopped either during this pandemic. And today I want to honor the sacrifice of those who have died in traffic-related incidents thus far during 2020. During 2020, we've had 109 line-of-duty deaths. I can tell you that a year ago, for the entire year, we had 147. So our line-of-duty deaths are up this year. And the number of officers that have been killed in vehicle incidents are 25. And today, let's honor those who have been killed in vehicle incidents in 2020. Next. Officer Paul Dunn, Officer Nicholas Reyna, Deputy Sheriff Jared Taylor, Deputy Sheldon Gordon Whiteman, Officer Catherine Mary Fine, Officer Alan Daniel McCollum. Next. Officer Kenneth Reed Lester, Deputy Donna Richardson Below, Lieutenant Shirley Lanning, who used to be one of my deputies, Officer Brent Trempshire, Deputy Kentarius Taylor, Deputy Christopher Scott Corzilius, Officer Caleb LaFay Grant, Trooper Justin Schaefer, Trooper Nolan James Sanders, Sergeant Ben Jenkins, Sheriff Kirk Coker, Chief Terry Engel, Deputy Jeremy Ledoux, Officer Christopher Ewing, Probation Parole Agent Caitlin Cowley, Deputy John Andrew Roden, Deputy Wyatt Nasser, Trooper George Baker, Sheriff Andy Derek Clark, Officer Dale Thomas Provins Jr., Officer Destin Lagiza, and K-9 Officer Thor and K-9 Trooper Rao. So I would encourage you to honor the victims and the heroes, whether it be victims of traffic crashes or victims of law enforcement officers who have died. Say their name. And that's one of the things I think is so important, is to never forget them and to always say their name. Next. So I'm going to ask you today to quit using the A word. An accident is something that happens by chance or without a reason. And it provides, the word accident provides an excuse for killing or injuring people in vehicle crashes. No one dies in a car crash by accident. I can tell you that my wife and my daughter were not killed by accident. They were killed because someone was driving 100 miles an hour and ran a stop sign and hit them broadside. So when you use the A word to a victim or a survivor, it offends us. It's a crash. It's never an accident. Next. So when the pandemic is over, the traffic epidemic will still be here. Over 100 people will continue to die every day in vehicle crashes. And I can't emphasize that enough. Over 100 people are going to die today. And they're going to die 100 people tomorrow. We can't save every life, but it's our law enforcement duty to at least try. Next. So our law enforcement officers are dedicated. They're still responding to calls every day. Domestic calls we know are up. Some areas enforcing social distancing. Victim resources are still available, even though there may be fewer officers to work traffic. Next. And we know there's issues that face law enforcement. Budget deficiencies mean fewer officers. Some calls for defunding or eliminating police agencies. The difficulty in recruiting law enforcement officers, especially now. Traffic enforcement duties may not be a high priority for your leaders. Public complaints have up some agencies scaling back or ending traffic enforcement. And to some, criminal justice reform just makes officers feel like their traffic arrests or citations are a waste of time. Next. So here's the reality. Local, county, and state budgets have been decimated by the pandemic. In the state of Oklahoma, revenue is down 20%, $500 million down this year, and $1.3 billion down next year. In Oklahoma City, they're down $35 million in their budget for the next fiscal year. And emergency services, including the police, are taking a 3.3% cut. In my own community here in Choctaw, they're going to cut over $1 million in their next year. And in Norman, Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma, the home of the University of Oklahoma, because of defunding efforts, they have cut $865,000 out of the Norman Police Department budget. Next. So there are available resources that you can use. You can visit websites or contact these and other organizations, including the National Sheriff's Association, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Governor's Highway Safety Association, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and responsibility.org. Next.
All right.
And also use effective tools and technology in law enforcement efforts. And now, let me introduce again, Vinny.
Thank you, Sheriff Whetsel. I tell you what, it's hard to speak almost. I mean, that is such a poignant presentation. Like Sheriff Whetsel was saying, one of the things that's going to happen as we move out of the pandemic is, there's going to be quite a few budget cuts and things of that nature. So at LTI, one of the things we want, our mission statement is that we equip professionals with smart measurement solutions for a safer world. So, for instance, what we look to do in both the traffic safety and professional measurement markets that we have is to put equipment in people's hands that will enable them to do their job safer, more effectively, quicker quite often, because they do have to do things with less. So I just wanted a few moments to share with you some of the products we have to help control that speed out there. Once we get through this pandemic, like Sheriff Whetsel shared, I mean, we're just going to come out of this and go into what we call normal again, and it's still going to be going on. I mean, I think some of these habits during the pandemic will be carried over to when the COVID fear is over. So I wanted us to take a look at some solutions that we offer in this traffic safety division. So the first one, I'm just going to go real fast through this because it's not a salesy presentation today. We really wanted you to hear Sheriff Whetsel's presentation and personal testimony. So when we look at the speeding equipment that we sell, we have quite a few products for sale which would enable departments to do, wherever it fits their budget, we would have something in that need, or whatever they're looking to do too on the roadways, we have something for that need. So one of the products that we do sell is the TrueSpeed S series. As you can see by its size, it's pretty stealth looking in a way. I mean, you can carry it around your neck if you like, or whatever, but it's very small, it's rugged, it's compact for its size, very compact. We have, I don't know, probably 5,000 of these out there, and they're just working wonderfully. The other thing that we have in this particular size of unit is our TrueSpeed SXB unit, which would enable you to do mapping, scene mapping. Would also crash scene mapping, and it would also allow you to use a software product that we call an app called Speed Capture, where you could get the image of the car, the speed, and the range, so you could show an offender down the road what they, how fast they were going, and show it that it was their car. Our standard TrueSpeed S series, or our TrueSpeed series, it's available in standard range and long range. Again, this is an ideal tool for pinpoint accuracy in a heavy volume environments such as a highway or just busy crossroads where a lot of truck traffic's going on. They're very good for that, and they're available in a standard model of 2,000 feet and then an LR version for 4,000 feet range if you're looking for a little bit of extended range. One of the things that we have that's really going to prove to be a nice solution in these times is the TrueVision unit. The TrueVision has the ability to get the speed, the range, the time of day, GPS coordinates, all that, and an image of the infraction taking place. So this unit today is starting to really gain traction, really starting to get traction in the domestic marketplace. It has always been a good in the international field, but now we're starting to get quite a bit of traction in the U.S. market. It has built-in Wi-Fi, which is wonderful for remote operation or printing on the side of the road. At least internationally, they need to print out a little ticket to show the people what, infraction, and it's a snippet of the infraction plus all the information, the metadata that goes with it. This unit can also be used to go into your back office. It can integrate seamlessly with that. And what we're finding is we have done our part on our end. So when we start to work with these back office companies or the back office companies that departments are using, based on the scale of the effort that the police department needs, it's easy to integrate into that. So again, if you want to take speed, range, and an image and get it through your back office system, if that's what you're using, this would be the unit for you. Tailgating. This one is a really, this is a special one for us. I'm going to tell you a stat in a minute. The whole key for our distance between cars product that we use inside our units is to reduce the incidence of tailgating. This gives police officers like hard data to back up what they're seeing. And then if this should go to court, you have the scientific evidence that you need to prove that technology in court. You can see the True Vision enables you to do this following too close tailgating, distance between cars, whatever you would want to call it, and also get an image of the car that is the one causing being too close to the car behind that front car. So again, this is a wonderful tool for doing not only speed, but also tailgating. One of the stories that we like to talk about, we have a few states now that have done it, but none like Georgia. Georgia went out and outfitted basically their entire commercial motor vehicle department with the True Vision technology. And what they've done is they've been able to reduce fatalities. They have some roads there from their port cities into the major portions of Atlanta that are so congested. And they had so much tailgating going on between truck on truck, truck on small car on truck, you name it. It was going on and on. And they were able to reduce the fatalities on their roads by 2%. So again, this tool, you can see up there, it says Major Johnny Jones said it's unlike any other piece of equipment out there. This really will be a solution for your departments. Again, we're going to say, I'm going to ask you, if when you're starting to get back into things, if there's something in our series of units that would help you to do the job better, faster, safer, you could position yourself where you want on the road, all these things that you have to take into account. We would just, please, if you would, you could even call me direct, that would be wonderful, or down on the bottom to get into we can send you information, or we can send a quote if you need one, wherever you might need. We could schedule a demo for you. We could send out equipment for you to try. What a nice, safe way to try something in your department, evaluate it, see if everybody likes it. So again, we are here with you. We stand with you on this problem that we know all departments face and all states face. We have it. Sergeant Whetsel was talking about Oklahoma. We have the same thing going on in Colorado right now, and it's going on throughout the states. So again, we want to help you bounce forward rather than just bouncing back to normal. So I'm going to turn this over now to Sergeant Whetsel. If there's questions that have come in through this, he'll be free to answer them for you. And thank you for your time today. But John, if you would, Jay, do we have any questions or that kind of thing? I'm gonna send the chat. So Jay or Torrin or Maddie, are there any questions for Sergeant Whetsel today? I don't know, John, you must have done. What? Hello?
Hi. Yeah, no, I do not see any additional questions. I do believe that Sheriff Whetsel covered everything fairly thoroughly.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation. Let's see. So, Sheriff Whetsel, here you go. If you want to just take it on out for us.
Sure. So here's the question everybody needs to ask themselves, and that is, why are you in law enforcement? And the answer had better be because you want to be a public servant, because that's what we truly are. We serve citizens, we protect citizens, and then we save lives. That's our mission. That's what we do, and that's what we need to do. Every shift we're out there is serve, protect, and save those lives. Next. So it is a beautiful day to save lives, regardless of where you're at, regardless of how cold it is or how hot it is. Every day is a beautiful day to save lives, especially right now. Your job is critical. The work you do is so important because you save lives. And today we want to say thank you. Thank you for the job that you do, and thank you for being out there on the street, risking your life to save others. Next. So there's my contact information. If I can help you with any issue, provide training, I am available. You can reach me by telephone or by email. I chair the Traffic Safety Committee for the National Sheriffs. If you're in the Sheriff's Office and want to get involved in our Traffic Safety Committee, we'd love to have you as a partner in that too. Next.
I'll just say the same. Again, if there's my contact information. If I can help in any way, I'd be glad to, and get you to the sales department or help you with perhaps a product of ours you already have. You might have some questions. Be glad to help. That's what we're there for. So again, just want to say thank you for coming today. Sheriff Whetsel, I can't thank you enough for doing this, allowing us to host this. I think the information shared today is absolutely apropos for the time. And again, glad that you took, I mean, this is a tough day for you, kind of, but you took today, the anniversary date, and shared this with the people. So we know it was from your heart, and we're grateful for that. So if there's no more questions, we'll say goodbye, and thank you for joining. And this webinar will be available. We have recorded it, be available to be sent out to those attending and those that signed up and something didn't allow them to show up, so that they will receive the webinar as well. So with that said, I want to say thank you for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.